What's up, everybody? Welcome to Are You Down with LPT, the podcast where agents like you share their stories, experiences, and insights to help each other level up and thrive. In every episode, we're diving deep into the real-life challenges, wins, and lessons from the front lines. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, this is the place to connect, learn, and grow together. So, if you're ready to get down with LPT and take your game to the next level, let's jump in. Welcome to Are You Down with LPT? We are doing our monthly market snapshot, and I'm with Tracey and Jim Hibbs here on a Friday.
All right.
Live.
I love it.
Day. So just want to talk about what's going on in the market, get your guys' insight on it. You know, the 100 best days in real estate are kind of winding down here. It's almost middle of June, which is kind of crazy. But as we wind down, just want to get a feel for how you guys would describe it. So if you had to describe today's market in one word, what would it be?
I would say it's balanced. Not balanced in the same sense that every buyer and seller have equal leverage, but balanced compared to what we've experienced in the last few years. We're seeing more inventory than we had a year ago. Buyers have more choices, and sellers still have strong opportunities if they're priced correctly. I think that's the main key.
We've seen that in the numbers, right?
Absolutely.
Price correctly, they're moving quickly. Others are sitting around.
It's just becoming more normal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's normal. And some agents have never experienced normal.
yes.
So
Yeah, if you joined in the last 6 years, welcome to normal.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, Kyle, I'd call it intentional, especially on the buyer's side. They have a lot more opportunities. Whereas just a few years ago, they may have felt the angst that, oh, okay, this one will do. Let's try to get it done. Now they're going into multiple homes, and even when they find one they like, they take their time before making that offer to see what else is coming up. I mean, just last week I glanced at the on the MLS we had 530 new listings in a 7-day period. So the opportunities, and I think it's a great opportunity for both buyers and sellers, is out there, and the buyers are they're taking their time.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for the sellers to be priced right and have that house spick and span ready to go.
Yeah. Which is, again, normal. I mean, that's how it used to be. You wouldn't have to make a decision in 20 minutes if you're going to buy the house or not. So
that's healthy doing it this way.
Yeah, that's right. What surprised you guys most about what's going on in the market right now?
Honestly, I think it's how resilient it continues to be. Like every year we're told, oh, rates are going to stop the market. Yet people still continue to buy and sell homes, right?
Yeah.
They need to. So through just the first 5 months of 2026, LPT legacy agents have participated in more than 540 closed transactions and nearly 186 million in sold volume. So that's impressive. And consumers are still moving despite the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Life still happens, right?
Yeah, and the buyers they are adapting to the interest rates around that 6%. I mean, it's been 3 years now.
Yeah, right.
And in the meantime, the house prices, especially in the lower prices, continue to creep up. So they're falling behind if they're not buying today. And as Matt, our favorite banker, often says, date the rate and buy and marry the house. Did I get that right? Marry the house, date the rate, something like that. Buy it, marry
Our own culture.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about inventory, buyer opportunities. Are buyers finally getting some breathing room? Jim, you kind of alluded to that a minute ago, but what do you guys think?
I think so. I mean, we're sitting at approximately 4,100. Yeah.
When's the last time we've been that high listing wise? But
probably 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say. Yeah. But so buyers have more homes to choose from and more time to make those decisions, just like what Jim said. So they don't feel like, they did during those frenzied years,
And they're asking for more again. It used to be before COVID, seller paid, buyer costs were pretty regular. Well, that's coming back. Inspections, and not just as-is inspections, but full inspections are back in vogue again. And so you're seeing a lot more of that, asking for warranties, where a few years ago it had to be just a clean, straight offer to try to beat those other offers. It's, again, buyers are asking for a little bit more from sellers.
Yeah. So you go back a few years, what opportunities exist today that didn't a few years back?
Well, just exactly what Jim was kind of talking to is 2 years ago, it was take it or leave it. right? And now buyers, they can compare the homes, they can negotiate the repairs, they can ask for the concessions, they can actually think about their decision, which that's a good thing. Because back when they were like waiving those inspections, I mean, that was just not healthy and it wasn't in their best interest, even though we tried to tell them, hey, this is really important. You actually need to sign off if you're not going to have an inspection because we do think it's as important to do. So we're in a much better position than we were then.
And I really think sellers are beginning to understand that better. I would say a year ago, everybody thought it was if it didn't sell in 2 days and they didn't do all the work that you were suggesting, then there was something wrong. But they're now understanding that they have to be show ready. They have to have the house all put together and they need to be prepared to, even sit a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months to sell the house at the right price. Because again, you go back to those buyers who have more opportunities and to think through, but they'll come back to the right house eventually.
Yeah. So look, Jim, I'll stay with you here. So you kind of alluded to this here, but biggest mistake. So as I shift to sellers here, what's the biggest mistake sellers are making?
Not making the repairs, not making, little things like paint. I walked into a house the other day that was priced at a very retail number. And immediately within walking in, you recognize that it's going to need painted right away.
Yeah.
And that's one of the least expensive things a seller can do. And same thing with depersonalizing and making sure that house is clean. Nobody wants to walk into a dirty house. They're not going to be able to see their stuff, see their life in that house.
It was, you go back, pre-COVID and, we'd go through a house and here's a list of things you should do. And hey, if, back in when the market was terrible, I'm like, you got to do all these things and then it still might not sell. And you got to price it right. And then you get to COVID, it's like, you can do some of this stuff or not. It's going to sell. And now we're getting back to more normal. Like, here's what you need to do. I use the illustration of wholesale versus retail. Like, hey, if you want a retail price, you can't have a wholesale condition. I worked at Hy-Vee for 8 years, and we wanted to get rid of a can of corn that was dented. We'd throw in this little grocery cart and mark it down 25 cents. Somebody buy it, but you had to mark it down to, a price that somebody's willing to pay.
Right.
But if you wanted top dollar for that corn, it had to be no dents, the wrapper can't be coming up, pristine. So I think that's a key point for sellers is like, hey, if you want that retail price, you got to give a retail product.
Yeah.
And all those things you mentioned are very important. Tracey?
Unfortunately, I think many sellers are still anchored in what their neighbors got in 21 or 22. And today's buyers are much more informed. And if you're overpriced, the market is going to tell you very quickly, which is why that goes back to, we've talked about it in roundtables, we've talked about it in meetings of, if you're going and competing for a listing, which you should always consider that you are, and the sellers are saying, hey, I want to price it, above what your recommendation is, have that in writing on an addendum of, hey, if we're on the market 2 months or 2 weeks and we're not getting any offers or very many showings, we need to look at lowering the price. And if you can get them to actually put a price down, that's even better. But I think it's important to do that if you're going to be taking an overpriced listing, because sellers like to forget about what you tell them before you list the house. So
great. I think that just brings to mind another question here for me. What separate homes that quickly sell from ones that sit on the market?
Yeah, we've kind of touched base on it a little bit, right? It's the three things. It's the price, it's the presentation, and it's the preparation, right? And the market is rewarding those sellers who do all three.
Agreed. 100%. You've got to be ready for the dance. Have your dance shoes on, not your, I don't know, what do you wear that you wouldn't want to be dancing in? Your cowboy boots? I suppose you dance.
I've danced a few times. I asked my souls dancing
just be
cowboy boots. So my physical ones.
Be ready for the dance, whatever shoes you want to wear.
Okay, so let's talk about, what the numbers are telling us. As you're looking at the numbers, production numbers, what stands out?
Well, really, it's kind of how diversified the market is. We see everything from the entry-level condos and the starter homes all the way up to the luxury transactions exceeding 1 million. Buyers are still active across all price points. And like going right back to what we said, it's the sellers that are doing those three things that are seeing their homes sell. If those, but then we look at how many price reductions we have. And I think there were just 18 even today when I looked. So it's huge to go and make sure that you're having those those conversations with your sellers and, using analogies. Like if maybe you've had a difficult seller that didn't listen to you, talk to them about that. Like, hey, I understand you want to get this, but, this happened and this was the outcome. And that's why I recommend you don't do that. Right.
Yeah. And you're spot on. 18 today, 440 price reductions in the last 7 days. That's more than 10% of the market bringing their price back. If you're having that conversation with a pre-listing and the seller wants to, try to push the market a little bit, make sure you're having that conversation, as Tracey alluded to earlier, where, we're going to react. We're going to take steps in the first week or two if we're getting the feedback that the pricing is too high. But better way to go about it is to nail that market price right out of the chute.
So a lot of uncertainty in the world today with everything going in Iran and, market conditions, all that, economic uncertainty. Are consumers still moving despite all of those things?
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of, we realize that they're not going to move just when rates hit a magic number, right? They move because, and what we're hearing a lot on our meetings and in a roundtable is that the things that agents are seeing, are, hey, it's situational, right? Married, baby, job change, divorce, retired, downsizing. It's all those life experiences that people are going through. So it's situational and people still need to buy and sell homes, right? That's not going to change.
That is not going to change. And there are reasons that maybe people can hold back a little bit, but then there are the reasons they can't. And I think that at the end of the day, the market is pretty balanced right now in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. And I think that's healthy for both sides.
You talked about rates, so I guess I'll sit there for a second. How much are rates impacting, decision-making for consumers?
So rates matter, right? Because we saw, down in end of February, first part of March, where they ticked down, we did see an influx. So rates do matter, but they're no longer like shocking people, right? Yep. I think like Jim said, it's been 3 years, right? So consumers have adjusted. They're understanding that if rates improve later, they can refinance and they can't, go back and buy today's house at today's price. So, equity's always building. We're a healthy market, so better to get in now than wait and have it cost, could potentially cost, price them out of a home, right? If they wait.
Yeah.
So.
And what I'm seeing specifically, the younger buyers are having a more difficult time adjusting to the rates. You think about somebody who in 2020 was 18 years old, 22 years old, and they lived the life of that 2.5%, 3%, where some of us have been around a little bit longer. Maybe have done our first house at 8 3/4. Yeah. We see that things will change and that we can take steps. If you end up in that house at a little higher rate than you wanted, you can adjust that when the rates come back down. And that's just an education thing for agents to make sure they're talking to those brand new buyers, the new buyers in the market, the younger folks, and helping them understand that, again, you're not necessarily married to the rate when you buy that house.
Date the rate, buy the house. Already.
There you go. Thanks for getting that right.
So buyers are adapting, you guys would say?
Yeah. I mean, the 30-year average has been around 6%, but homes, like we saw, are continuing to sell. Buyers are becoming comfortable with it. But ultimately, kind of what Jim had said was, they're more focused on, okay, what's my monthly payment? Right? What does that look like? And if you can work with Matt or Tracey or your preferred lender and say, hey, what would it cost if the seller would buy down the rate for my client? What would that cost? And then work that into a purchase agreement, right? Ask for that concession and talk to your buyers about that potential option, especially those ones that are, focused on the rate.
Yep. Agreed.
So let's talk about summer. I don't know, when's the official day of summer? Sometime in June, right?
21st?
22nd?
22nd. Whenever the summer solstice is.
Yes, whatever that is.
It's not always the 21st. I can't follow along.
It's somewhere around there.
Summer now. Let's just call it summer.
It is summer. Yeah. Kids are out of school. We're summer activities, going on trips, that type of thing. So what do you expect as we look at, the next 90 days here and take me, June, July, August? What do you guys expect? What do you see?
Well, I think we're going to probably continue to see inventory growth, but strong buyer activity, because I think, we become complacent with the gas prices and with the war and all of those things. So, you have that initial shock and then people get used to it. And so I think they're getting used to it. I think the rates have kind of settled down. So it's not going to be a boom. It's not a crash. It's just going to be a healthy market.
And I see buyers that are out there that are doing the work now. That house that they always wanted is going to come onto the market. And that's going to be the yes. I think that we will continue to see 350 to 450 pendings a week in the Des Moines market, which is, again, a healthy pending, but the listings are outpacing just a little bit. But again, within those brand new listings is the house that buyer wants.
So what's one piece of advice you give buyers right now?
I'd say stop trying to perfectly time the market, right? Because there is, if you're financially ready and your life says it's time, buy the house.
Get yourself that pre-approval, be ready to go. And even if you don't think you want to buy that house exactly today, get out there, start looking, start shopping, and you never know.
Yeah, be ready for when the time is there.
We've all seen it. Somebody walks into a house and we recognize in 30 seconds, this is the one. And you have to get into that house to find the one.
Yeah, that's right. So other side, what's a piece of advice you give sellers right now?
Price it correctly from day one. I mean, we've said it again and again, just in this podcast, that first week or two on the market is your best week. So pay attention to what it's telling you and price it correctly and do the work ahead of time, right? Make it as picture perfect as possible.
And that means the paint, that means cleaning, that means even on the outside, making sure that the landscaping is taken care of, and get the weed whacker out instead of just mowing. Make sure that it shines and that there are opportunities for buyers just to dream about the house and not wonder why certain things aren't done.
Okay, a few rapid fire questions here. Buy, sell, or wait?
Today, buy.
Buy or sell if life requires it, right? Waiting for perfection doesn't usually work.
No, it really doesn't.
Do it.
Most underrated opportunity right now?
I think buyers negotiating concessions and rate buy downs for sure.
And on the new construction side, those concessions, the new construction, they're not necessarily going to work a whole lot on that price point, but they may be willing to throw in the kitchen sink.
Quite literally. Biggest myth in real estate in 2026?
I'm going to wait until rates come down.
It's the fact that we have a slow market. We don't. I mean, we hear this all the time. Oh, the market. Oh, it's nothing like that. I mean, we're going to beat 2025 at the end of the day from transactions, and there are more opportunities out there to choose from. So I think it's a very healthy, vibrant market in the Des Moines area.
What's one thing consumers should stop worrying about?
I think they need to stop listening to the daily headlines, right? That's national. And local housing markets are driven by local jobs, local inventory, and local demand, not the national clickbait, which they love to do.
Yeah, and if it makes financial sense for you and it's going to better your life and create an environment in which you want your home, the way you want to live, go for it. Don't wait for that.
Yeah. Any final takeaways for us that we can leave our agents with?
Ultimately, I think it's a change in the shift of how agents think about it. The market isn't difficult. It's just different maybe than what a lot of them are used to. Buyers have more choices, sellers still have opportunity, and people continue to build wealth through home ownership. And that's really the key. Having a strategy, working with it, and working with all of us as professionals who understand today's market and helping to educate both our sellers and our buyers is ultimately our job. And that's where we'll find success.
Hone those communication skills. You're going to need to be communicating longer, potentially with sellers than maybe in the past. And then also on the buyer side, keep in contact with those folks that maybe went to the sidelines. They're worried about headlines, things like that. Communication skills, they weren't as needed in 2020, 21, 22. Today, keeping in contact with those buyers and sellers on a consistent basis is absolutely key to your success.
Absolutely. Your pipeline's important.
Well, guys, appreciate it. As always, this is Are You Down with LPT?
That's a wrap for today's episode of Are You Down with LPT? Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you get some valuable takeaways to apply to your journey. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss out. And hey, if you have your own story you'd like to share or questions you'd like to dive into, hit us up. Until next time, stay down with LPT and keep leveling up. Catch you in the next one.